Hello, I'm Graham Hicks, and welcome to Tracks West. On this program, we will be exposing you to some of the best talent in Western Canadian rock. Tonight, we're going to feature the band Darkroom. We'll have some of their video cuts from the first album, and a little later on, we'll be talking with Darkroom's vocalist, Jim Gray. Work backstage in rock and roll. Those individuals to make sure things run smoothly before, during, and after the show. In fact, a goodly portion of the billions of dollars circulated in the music industry every year are shared by those people who are not directly involved in the actual performing aspect of rock music. We'll be meeting two integral members of Darkroom's backstage staff. Perhaps we'll gain an insight into some of the complexities of working behind the scenes in rock. Right now, let's watch Darkroom perform the title track from their first album, Sambaku. Jim Gray from Darkroom, welcome to Tracks West.
Hi, Graham.
Jim, I want to ask you, 3 years ago I saw you in another band and you were leaping around like a dancing lizard. You disappeared from view for about a year, and then suddenly Darkroom showed up. And at that point even, it was a very, very tight band. You were opening for, what was his name? The guy that, Green, Jack Green.
Jack Green, yeah.
A whole pile of dates, almost your opening dates. What happened in that year? What kind of goals did you evolve while you were, I suppose woodshedding might be the term? And how far have you come along in the realization of those goals?
First question, how did we get along in that year? It was kind of a learning experience for the group, because for that year in between the band before and Darkroom, I didn't do anything. Like, it wasn't like I was out searching for a group or anything. It was just sort of like a layover period. Sort of a holiday, I guess you call it. Then I got itchy again, and I had to go out and start a band up, and I got Al, the guitar player from the band I was in before. And we got this band together, and when the first time Darkroom came out, its goals were totally different, like the whole outlook of the band. Any band that I'd been in before was not really a serious group. It was more or less something to do to get paid so that you didn't really have to go out and get a real job. You know, it was like you'd have fun, you could play at night, and then you could lay around all day and get by doing that. So it was more like a party for 3 years, yeah. You know, more than anything. But then I realized I was a lot more serious about it than just making it a party. So when Darkroom got together, it had a whole different attitude. And from the first day on, one of the reasons the band got together was because of the writing. We started writing together at rehearsals, and the songs started coming together. You know, when you don't write, when you've never written before, and you sit down with four other people, and you listen back to a tape and say, hey, that's a song that we wrote. And the first time you realize that you actually can maybe write a song together, it sort of changes your whole aspect to the whole.
At that point, the band realized that you did have something going here, that this is a group of musicians that might be able to do something. How you had enough professional experience at that time to pull together a working band, but what were some of your philosophies and views about 5 serious musicians who really wanted to try and make a mark, who wanted to go out and record as you have done?
I mean, how did you decide on who would be in the group, and like as far as they had to have a professional attitude?
Yeah.
I think the people that came into the band at first realized at that time, when they found out, well, what songs we were going to learn, when they walked in, they found out that we're just writing. They knew right then what the idea of the band was. And there was a few member changes from the beginning. There was a couple people that never even played with Darkroom live from when the band started. I'd say I think there was 1 or 2 people that never did play with the group live. And then the band's first public appearance, since then there's been 2 member changes. So it wasn't the perfect combination to start off with. How
did the band manage to get, as its first 5 gigs, touring with Jack Green, opening through Western Canada? This strikes me as a coup of the first degree for an Edmonton rock band.
Our manager, Rob Montgomery, took a tape. We went into the basement and made a really quick tape, and just sent it off to Periscope in Vancouver. And they were looking for an opening act, and they heard the tape. And we thought they had heard the tape. We found out later that they didn't even listen to the tape. No, it doesn't make sense to me either, but we found out later that they just heard on good word. I guess some of the people had seen the band perform. Like, we played 2 shows before that, and somebody must have seen us play or something, because we got the tour, and then we found out that at the last minute they never had even listened to the tape until we were just ready to go on the road with them.
Charmed lives. Everyone keeps on telling me that this band is you know, had its ups and downs. It's been a tough road to hoe. As far as I'm concerned, I think Darkroom has had one of the most smoothest sailing careers of any rock band going.
On the surface. Huh?
What we've been talking about is almost light years now, almost 2 years. Since then, you've gone on to pretty well become one of the top Western Canadian bands, certainly done as much as any other band out of Edmonton has ever done. And you've released 1 record. You got a real good deal with Warner Brothers of Canada, which I understand is a very difficult thing to do. The 2nd album now in the can. Did you ever think back then, all those light years away, that this would have happened?
I think you always hope it will happen. I can't say I sat back and thought it would happen, but in order to devote the hours that I think anybody that's ever made it in this business, there's a few exceptions, but I think most people that have ever made it in this business have put in thousands upon thousands of hours behind the scenes, rehearsing, writing, and working on things. And now that we're to this point, I can't say that I sat back and thought that I knew it was going to happen, but I will admit that you have to think that it's going to happen. That's one of the things that keeps you going. It's like the old saying, follow a dream. You know, you have to have something at the end of that tunnel that you're looking for, and you think it's possible. That's what keeps the drive. Otherwise, you'd never have an ambition to work as hard. Tell me about
your first record you made, the real struggle at that time with the band, working day jobs, rehearsing, playing, and recording late at night, as compared to the really professional attitude of full-time musicians making a 2nd record.
It's a total different thing. The first record, for some people that aren't aware, was recorded when the band was working in the daytime to support themselves. And all the gig money that we would make by doing shows was going to put out a record, our very first record. And so between playing at night and working in the daytime, any spare hours that were left over, we'd go in to record the album. So the first album literally took months and months to finish, going in and out, little hours at a time. And this 2nd record that we just finished doing, we went into the studio and we did it all. Like, we worked every day, a full day's work, about 10, 12, 14 hours a day, and for 3 weeks. And that's all we did, is we just recorded. We didn't have to worry about day jobs. All we had to do was wake up, play, eat, sleep, think music.
Is that a big difference for the creative process?
It helps the creative process because you've got full attention span. All your attention is going to the album instead of worrying about getting up to go to work. It makes a big difference. But also the spontaneity that you get in the studio that way is also nice. Like, you can wake up in the morning, a couple of the songs on the album were literally written in the studio. The title of one of the title tracks of the album was done. We started jamming it in the morning. It was around 11 o'clock or something. Everybody came in the studio. We started jamming this song. 20 minutes later, we put the bed tracks down for it.
Which are the bass, the drums, that kind of thing?
Yeah, bass tracks are the bass, the drums. Yeah. And the things like that kept happening in the studio never would have happened on the first record because there just wasn't the time. Any time we had in the studio, it had to be productive.
Jim, do you think people will notice a difference between the 2 albums in the actual... Is the kind of things you're talking about only picked up by the musicians, by the professionals who listen closely, or will people, your fans, of whom I'm one, will they pick up the difference between the 2 albums quality-wise?
Professionals in the business, musicians will notice a difference technically. They'll sit and they'll understand why it sounds a little different than the first one, and they'll most people will just hear the album and hopefully think it has a better sound to it. Some people might think the first one sounded better, I can't say, but I think they'll just go, it's something different about that, but they won't be able to say what it is because they're not in the business. But hopefully, I think this album sounds a bit better because it was done, I don't know, it was just some whole more professional aspect. Like, the band had grown over a year. They went into the studio a lot more confident. They weren't nervous about things. They were, instead of worrying, they were creating.
Well, you become a professional band.
You have to, yes. especially when there's someone else signing the check for you. When you're spending your own money, you can sort of say, well, look, if we went overtime, fine, we're paying for it. But when there's a record company above your head, I'm not saying they were down our shoulders all the time, but when they're above your head, you know that you have to be...
Clock's ticking.
Yeah, you have to have a certain amount of professionalism about you, or else you won't have that record company anymore.
Jim, when Sampaku, your first album, came out, I was struck very much by what appeared to me to be a synthesis between the British sort of new wave, the very artsy guitar, at least keyboard kind of sound, meshed with a real Western Canadian sense of driving rock and roll. It struck me as something that was almost quite unique. Where has that sound gone in the last year? Your new album's going to come out in a couple of weeks, if not very soon. Where have you gone all through '84, through the learning process, the touring, the playing, musically?
Musically, I think the band has matured a bit. One thing we also got to do with this record was equipment was a lot more available to us. Like our producer, Tom Tremuth, had we did the album in Toronto, and that's where he lives, so he had a lot of connections with music stores and with musicians that lived in the city, and we had the chance to bring in like all different types of amplifiers, all different types of guitars and keyboards, so there was a lot more sounds available to us. We wouldn't have to just settle for one guitar sound or two guitar sounds throughout the whole album. As far as the combination of the British keyboard cross against Western rock guitar, or whatever it was you
like
called
that?
it. Yeah, I couldn't repeat it. But what that boiled down to, I think, was just that the members in the band sort of have a different tastes in music, sort of in their own personal lives. And since everybody in the band sort of has their own different influences, the whole thing meshed together, became Darkroom, and it wasn't really planned that way. It's just that that's how it worked out, and I'm glad it did, because it seems to be working out fairly well for us. So,
Jim, your second album is just about to hit the racks now. Big event in Edmonton, big event across Western Canada. Tell me about where the sound of the band has gone between your first album, Sampaku, and the new one.
The sound, to us, it hasn't. Well, I guess it's changed a bit, but we've always wanted to keep an open field to ourselves. We didn't want to have a certain sound where we could never stray away from it, because otherwise we'd get bored. We want to be able to change with every album a little bit.
Still got that driving rock sound?
I think so. Matter of fact, I think using Tom Tremuth as a producer helped us get... See, live, the band is a lot harder than we've been able to capture on album yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this record captures it a little closer than the last one did, definitely. Like, it's got more of a bottom end, like it's got more of a live drum sound to it, you know, because it's all... Like, the recording technique that Tom used to get the drum sound nice and live, you know, the little tricks he had worked out well, I think.
Sounds terrific.
I think it'll sound more powerful.
Well, we're all rooting for you. Let's go on location, Jim, and look at some of the other members of the Darkroom family.